Q&A. If you have questions, please raise your hand and ask. Don't think of it, because thinking is harder than actually asking the question. Like Ajahn Brahm says, pushing the wheelbarrow is easier than thinking of it. If you remember that story. Since you are a small question, a small group, a small question won't hurt, and any question won't hurt. The Buddha said, those who ask questions will be born wiser next lifetime. So I'm sorry about those who don't ask questions. Yeah, just with that, it came to me that, in this world, people like doing passion, people like doing transitioning their genders and giving identities to them. What would be the way the Buddha approached these things? Because you may have friends, family, you may have relatives who try to come out, who struggle with terminology. What would be the Buddha's response to that kind of person? Say someone became like someone coming from an Islamic faith and now as a lives as a man but is a woman in his psychological behavior, and so he realized that he is in the wrong body, and now he wants to be a passion model. What would be a Buddha's response to that kind of person? Yes, in the heart of awakening, being gay, being bisexual, being any orientation does not matter. Whether you are a man or a woman, awakening is awakening. That's the first thing. And that's the priority the Buddha gave. Suffering, overcoming suffering. The Buddha never said life is suffering. That's the wrong way to interpret Buddhism. The Buddha said there is suffering in life, there's happiness in life, and there's also highest happiness in life. That's what the Buddha taught. And the other thing is about identity. We don't advertise it. Whatever you like to, whatever the being that you feel like internally, present yourself true to yourself to others. If you are trying to hide the lie, then it can be destructive psychologically for you, because people don't know, and don't expect people to say the right thing, and that expectation kills us. And let me teach you about expectations. This is reality. This is my expectation. Now my expectations grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and the gap from reality to expectation increases, but the reality remains. And what should we do then is to bring that gap thinner and thinner, and then you are with reality again, and you merge with reality. That's what we do in Buddhism. And the key to do so is through mindfulness. For that person or any other person who's going through the influence of chemistry or anything in their biophysical, psychological organism, we need to use the tools of compassion, kindness, acceptance, and letting them be who they are until they are ready. Sometimes they may not be ready to come out. And you secretly say, whatever you go through, I may not understand everything about it, but I'm here for you. People can label you and me in any way they like, but we are not letting them get into our brains. Someone can say you are a donkey, but if you think about it 10 times, you yourself tell yourself 10 times you are a donkey more than that one time the other person said it to you. So then in that process, because Sri Lanka and many countries are trying to accept these people. But if we I see your point that if someone is trying to seek attention, and that's a psychological problem that should be treated separately. seek attention because of that. Then you just show compassion, and you don't judge there. You say to yourself, this person needs little help, little perspective, and then they will be okay. But if they are struggling all their life because of this, then they need help from people who have been through this, including doctors who identify themselves in that arena and trying to help these kind of people. And that will be very helpful to a person of that category. But the first thing I should say is, in the heart of awakening, any of these identities don't have any place. Awakening is common to you all. And of course, about past life, that's a mystery we don't know. Until someone like the Buddha or you yourself discover your past life to be sure, then we can't say it's your karma or anything. That's very rude to say. We can't use tools like karma to judge these people. It's like, someone's child is lost and you say it's your karma. It's like slapping on their face. Very rude thing to say. We can't do that. It's very inhuman. We can't say, okay, look at Paticcasamuppada, you will be fine. That's very rude, inconsiderate of you. You don't say anything, you say, I empathize with your situation. I can't imagine what you're going through. Very human way of saying it. They feel it better than you saying it's your karma. We don't use Buddhist tools to judge people. That's wrong way to use Buddhism. The Buddha would laugh at us for doing it. We are actually paddling in unknown waters. So we need to be very respectful, very compassionate, be kind and be gentle. It's not possible always, but with effort, we will get there. So it's 10:29, and I think it's almost the time to stop. Any last thing that you like to share? 10:29 my time. That's whatever the time is. Let me tell you, I am a person who has been through severe anxiety in my life. Okay, I have experienced anxiety from childhood, and that's one thing because of having to go through poverty in our lives, and also childhood trauma and tsunami later, in the year I became a monk, and also as an inexperienced monk, still am, having to perform in front of people because there are expectations from us, and then everyone says, okay, Bhante, you did this, you did that, so you will be great. Why don't you do this? But now I say no. Just because I did all that doesn't mean I have to do what you're saying. So I have the ability to say no, but now I didn't have it before. So one thing you may have to, it's like this person saying, every time I go under a coconut tree, a coconut falls in my head. So what should that person do? Go to an island where there are no coconuts. But life is not that easy though. Like come to US and you don't have coconuts here, but you have too many car accidents. You're gonna get killed anyway. I'm not saying there are too many car accidents, but by percentage there may be too many because of the population here, 320 million or so people. But how does meditation help us? Meditation does not help you, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that. Why? When you are so anxious and you try to close your eyes and meditate, you are anxious, you are aware of your anxiety. And your mind tends to focus on what is prevalent in you. That means you're feeding it. That's why the Buddha gave very precise words. Be mindful, Be detached from these worries before you even begin meditation. Vinaya loke abhijado manasa. It's for cool people. It's not for us all. I'm so sorry to say that, but true. This is the truth. If you are trying to, well, now you meditate not to get rid of anxiety, but to just be here. And then whether anxiety is present in you or not, your goal is to just be. And when anxiety comes, your wisdom helps you. So it's not meditation, your wisdom helps you. That's what helped me. Your wisdom tells that, oh, now there's something alive in me called anxiety. Anything that is alive has a lifespan. It will live as long as it wants to live, and it will disappear when it's time for it to disappear. That's what helped me. And avoidance in most cases, avoiding the circumstances that bring me, practically bring me any anxiety trait. But with exams and all, you can't really avoid them. You have to face them. No, anxiety is very personal. Person to person, it's very different. So then you face it. You give the courage to yourself, and instead of it's like pushing the wheelbarrow is easier than thinking of it. Some anxiety comes by thinking of it. Some anxiety comes by exposing yourself to vulnerable situations. Some anxiety comes from habit because you have been exposing, and that you expect it to happen sooner, and it's not within our control. But these are natural phenomena and must be spoken, must be, presented to the world, because man mukti, freedom from this mental domain, it's something that nobody really talks about that well in many cultures. Physical things that are, affected, dent, you can see, but mental things like anxiety, you can't see. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, like electricity. You don't see it, but it does wonders. It does powerful, destructive things too. So anxiety has similar effect in your body. So I said avoidance, not trying to meditate with the focus of getting rid of anxiety. That does not happen. But don't misunderstand me. Meditation does help, but more than meditation, your wisdom helps. Wisdom to not identify with this anxiety. It's not yours. It's created by the things that I went through in life. And when I am a big boss in some place, I may be able to avoid these things. But everything you want to achieve in life is outside the wall of fear. That motivated me. Outside the wall of anxiety. That motivated me. That's wisdom. That's your intelligence guiding you, telling you not to give up. Just because you feel something unpleasant in here doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing. Like before presenting at schools, I remember feeling anxious. Like you expect the worst thing to happen, but then seeking support helped. But sometimes we seek support very late. Maybe you and I can have a conversation, and I'll tell you very personally, directly, what I actually did to overcome this. Please get my email, and we can set up a Zoom call, and we will talk. And I know I can help you with that. That's because I personally struggle with it and face these things. Imagine going through a Sri Lankan culture, being a monk, and then going to Europe and being a student, and then coming to United States and being a student here, going through academia and surviving, and working here in a hospital and surviving, and having to, like, people put us in all sorts of platforms and surviving. And nobody knows I struggle with anxiety because it's not visible. Nobody sees it. People go after things that are visible. But then the personal struggle is so real to me than to anyone else. And sometimes by trying to talk about it, it only confuses people more because they don't understand it. They don't have that language. They ignore, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how I can help there. I don't know if I have anything to help you there. Most people don't have that wisdom. We can't even expect them because expectation is here, reality is here. Remember that. But we'll have a conversation. This is my common response so far. Anything else? Oh, you mean it's like somebody telling that something is going to happen and you feel it beforehand? Yeah, there's a word for that. It's like telepathy, some um, yeah, it's like, it's like a message that comes. Like some people noticed before tsunami came, some people notice things before an accident happened, and sometimes the problem is people don't believe what you are saying. I think that kind of person can save a lot of trouble for themselves by listening to that message and also avoiding. But you can get into a lot of trouble by telling everybody that this is going to happen. And that's the constant struggle for any being who's facing life, how to balance all things with the internal and the external. And I think you may enjoy it while it lasts, so that you are basically listening to the messages and also at the same time wanting to discover where this comes from. I think one of you mentioned about past lives, and maybe that's where we have the answer. There is a kind of meditation now called past life regression, but in that you go to, it's like a hypnosis. You go to your past self as a child and you try to recall any past memories with guided instructions. There are YouTube videos on how to, like, people are guiding you, but they are not super successful. Sometimes there are hypnotherapists who are able to take you there, but I think you, as an intelligent being, you may not believe everything that the society tells you to do. So don't believe what I tell you to do. But again, at the same time, try different techniques, including learning meditation fully and immersing in it. I think people take meditation so lightly, but we monks sit hours on end, like 6, 7 hours on end, and that is actually meditation. It's not just like 10 minutes, 15-minute thing. Like at the Buddha's time, they did sit like days on end. That's how meditation had an effect on them. They had a life-changing situation and they chose meditation. They chose, now they are worry-free and trouble-free, and only way out for them is meditation. They did that fully. Not like you have to be a student half a day and work half a day and survive the other half a day. There's no time for meditation. And what you do is just relaxation. It's not development. It does not have enough time for any transformation in you. It will have a small impact. It's like hoda hoda made dana. It's like you wash a cloth and then throw it in the mud again. To have an impact, take a meditation retreat, like long meditation retreat, 3 months. You will test your discipline. You will test your everything in that. No electronics, no people. Nobody can give you any task to do, but you command. You meditate. Don't even say it's 3 months. Say until life lasts, so that you don't have the pressure of a time. I don't see any other way that it can have an effect. That's a great question. I think it's completely safe to say that this is a test given to all of us. and each individual face it differently. Although the questions appear to be similar, like, okay, study, finish your studies, work, finish your work, retire, and die. But see, when you are 65, they say you are ready to retire, but in 5 more years, you are 70, an elderly person. Now, all that work you did gave you some money and savings, but was it worth it? You had to question. Is that how well you wanted to live, or did you want to retire early? Although maybe you do want to retire early, but you don't have the financial support that you need. Or did the Buddha say something like santutti, being content with what you have? Or should I discover just that? And that way I'm happy with what I have. I'm more fortunate than so many other people. I can manage in my life, and I may also see if I can develop my mind to the fullest so that I see that I don't get tested ever again in a future birth. And that's kind of a larger goal that we all have. And discovering, because now artificial intelligence is taking over, and all the like Google platforms, Oracles, all the fights are sort of ending, and AI is leading. And am I ready for any of that? So with that, I think your brain is going to test against your own will and see if I can survive. Am I a machine, or is it worth it? But overall, because in Buddhism we know that there is a thing called past lives, and whatever we do now create the existence that we are in, and that way it continues creating more realms to be born. So facing this test well means it has good and bad and failures. And in all those moments, you discover something of you that you didn't know that you had. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? You will only know at your deathbed. Did I do well enough? But with putting yourself in right circumstances, like you came to this discussion today, that's your will guiding you in the right direction, I believe. And learning that, okay, follow your heart, but take your brain with you, and learn, like trying to remember that can have an impact of your life. It's like when you are with people who have pinna, like merit, they help you bring that, sharpen you, they bring that pinna out from you as well. But if you are with people who don't bring that pinna out of you, and that was your choice to be there, I think you are going down with them. So life is about making right choices. And if you make wrong choices, well, don't get into a conclusion. Life should not be conclusions. Don't conclude that Kusala Hamdru is this way, or Kusala Hamdru is that way. No need. We don't know. We have no clue about who I actually am. So there is no need to conclude. So I don't need to conclude about your life as well. You are a wonderful being who has fullest potential and opportunities. Nothing can go wrong with that understanding that you always come back a hero in this battle. Let's be good battalions, putting ourselves in right circumstances as best as possible. Well, when tsunami happened, if you say those people did mass karma in the past, and that's why they all perished around the same time, we don't know. Like the earthquake happened in Turkey. And this is like a yes or no. We don't have a yes or no answer to these things. Turkey's earthquake killed more than like 40,000 people. We don't know. I think the answer is in the 5 laws that the Buddha taught. Panchaniyamas. Uttu bija kamma dhamma chitta. things happen because of these 5 reasons. One of them is karma. So we can't say everything, because you plant a mango seed and mango tree comes, but someone can alter it and change the genomes and change things in it and get a different result. But that's intervention. We don't know all of that, because the earth has an enormous power, and it's it's the planetary systems have an impact on the oceans. Like when there's full moon, you see the ocean waves changing. Just like that, the human body goes through these changes with the universe moving so fast. We are in a constant moving pattern that we don't even realize is happening right now. So all these things are happening, and trying to interpret them fails the human ability to the human limitations of language. And the Buddha said, discover the world within you more than trying to discover the world outside. And most answers fall in that place, because there's no even a concept of time if we try to really look at it. It's very bizarre. So the patterns that you observe are very, very mysterious, and that makes us think this way, that maybe maybe the children of the same family murdered in a previous time, or that they are facing the same karma again and again. But they may have come from different families, but they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I don't think we can come to a conclusion without knowing the exact circumstances that these beings went through in their past lives. Thank you for the question. Well, that's a good question about the body. We have been we were forced to this earth in a way. We are anyway grateful to our parents for how much they have done to us to bring us to this world and raise us better. But you said, test I think the humans are moving away from the test culture. I have met many Europeans who homeschool their children, or they don't send their children to schools at all, or they don't make them go through any tests. They bring teachers to the home and teach whatever they want to teach. And people have realized that having a degree or a test is it's so limiting. It's testing your memory only, whatever you have memorized at the time. Some of you have great capacity to memorize, but you don't have the interest to do so because you are more intelligent than what the test paper does to you. So you intentionally fail those exams because you don't like them, because your body is rejecting them. And you can't do anything about it because you know that's your truth. And no matter what parents say, they say you didn't become this, you didn't become that. You're like, who cares? And you are not trying to prove anything to them. But unfortunately, the society labels us and puts us into a frame. And I want you to see the value of what these parents are saying, because they went through an ordeal to bring you to self-independent, very self-sufficient, self-survivable beings in this world. And only when you have proven that to the world and to your parents that they start to believe it. Sometimes you may be building a business as an entrepreneur, and that they don't believe in that until you are heavily successful and attract US dollars to your your account. Then only they believe that, oh, this guy can survive this world and that he has been doing something right. So it takes time and you have to be patient in that. But the fact that the body was, brought to us, but if we think that it was just the body that was brought to us and we need to survive, then you may also disregard the fact that there's ethics in the world, there is five precepts in the world, we need to respect parents, adults, and all that. There's no value in ethics at all if we just prioritize body that way. I think that's why all these things that the Buddha has taught to Sigala, for example, said, now you don't have your father, let me be your father. If you had your father, these will be the guidance that he gives to you. Especially Sigala's father was visiting the Buddha, and this father could not take his son because he was too much, into other things. And so he sort of told the Buddha that, okay, when I'm gone, you should, visit my son. And the Buddha made it a trick that he passed by where the Sigala was, sort of bathing in cold waters in a ritual, thinking that he's performing something to transfer merit to his dad. The Buddha said, well, I see what you're doing, but to really honor your dad, these are your family values. Why don't you do these? In east direction, you respect your parents. That means you do what your parents kept as family values. You try to understand them and respect and honor them. In the south direction, think of your friends. In another direction, think of your teachers. And so you are not just this body. You are part of a huge network. And if you ignore one of these, I think that's very selfish of us. We need to go back to your teachers, go back to those people who helped us to get where we are, and keep showing gratitude. It's this. I think this whole thing is connected with the universe in a way that we may never understand fully unless you come very close to reality, which is what we will be doing. That means we have a body, we have our mind, we have the universe and the energies that we are swirling with. So you'll be asking this question yourself for the rest of your life until you are enlightened. Okay, I hope I answered your question, but sometimes I may get the answer slightly later. But then you are not here to respond, so maybe we can have another discussion another time so that we discover more of ourselves. Okay, let's transform it. May the suffering ones be suffering free, fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, may all beings be well and happy.